Checking sound. Check 1, 2. Checking cameras.
Welcome to Frog Question Friday.
Forgot the sound for a second. Hello and welcome back to the super awesome workstation, also known as the quarantine tent. I think my mic's a little bit close. So a couple of things I just want to say up front. Number one, I'm experimenting with some new sound options today, so I apologize if there's any issues with the sound. There shouldn't be. I think we got it mostly taken care of. Lily is our technician. So number two, you may notice that that Lily is not here with me right now, even though I promised that she would be here to co-host. She had a couple of conflicts in her schedule. She's very busy, obviously, as an internet celebrity, and so she'll be joining us a little bit later. Number three, my lighting isn't as good as it was last time because I only have one of the lights, and the other one that I normally have on this side, where it's all dark, Jen is using for her telehealth thing. So she's saving lives, saving the world one patient at a time, etc. So I guess we can deal with that today. And we are today doing our holiday special Frog Question Friday, which today is happening on a Thursday, but that's okay. We can forgive that. I have a collection of questions that you all submitted through www.frogquestions.com. I also have a large gallery of images that many of you sent in, which are terrifying, let me tell you. We'll be going through those a little bit later. And at any point during this broadcast, including right now all the way through the end, feel free to use the chat on the side of the video, and you can ask questions, you can respond, you can talk to each other, and I will be sort of at the end after we do word of the day. I'll come back, and if there's any other follow-up questions, we can talk about that stuff. But let's go ahead and start with the PowerPoint. I have like a million buttons. This is, again, I need like a full-time producer to click this. This is why Lillian needs to be here. I need Lillian in this room with me so that she can be pushing all the buttons and things. So the first question was submitted by someone who said their name was No, which I think was probably more a response to the question of whether they wanted to give their name. It is asked, do you miss us? So since they didn't leave a name, I have to assume that this is the Backstreet Boys asking this question, to which obviously I would respond, no. No one misses you. I'm sorry. But you had your shot. The 90s were great, but we need to move on. We all need to move on. No, just kidding. This is probably from one of my students, and yes, of course, I miss all of you to some extent. Yeah, okay. For those of you who are saying you came here for Lillian, yes, she will be popping in just a little bit. She told me I could go ahead and answer some... Yeah, okay, the angry face, sure. She told me I could go ahead and answer some questions without her, and then she's going to jump in about 5 minutes. So sit tight. Plus, she's not the biggest theologian, so it's probably better that we get the theology questions out of the way before... I guess before anyone murders me through the chat. The second question from Jermaine. Good morning. Buy all styles of Ray-Ban sunglasses, only 19. Oh, okay. I see what you did there, Jermaine. So somebody who called themselves Concerned Mercy Parent asked, who is watching Lillian while you're in the closet and Jen is working? Now, this is a really important question, and I want to make sure that we get it right. So just a couple of things before we move on. First of all, generally, when you start a sentence, you would capitalize the first letter. So that should technically be a capital W. Also, Lillian is a proper noun. It's a name, so you should really capitalize that L too. We'll just fix that. I know the letters sure sound a whole lot like what you meant, but I think it's probably better to spell it this way. Spell out the whole word just to make sure there's no confusion. You called it a closet, which I believe I was very clear at the beginning of this broadcast that it is now going by the super awesome workspace / quarantine tent, if you don't mind. And of course, Jen, again, proper noun, capitalize that J. And I know all of these question marks make it sound more important It's just not correct. One is plenty. The answer to that question, though, is that Lillian is Jen tends to work in the basement. I tend to work on the top floor, and Lillian is in the middle. There's almost always one adult with us, either me or Jen. And when we are in separate floors, the main floor is completely child-proofed. We have gates in front of all the stairs. She can't leave the living room. That else is all child-proof. So do not fear for Lillian. Plus, I'm pretty sure she's indestructible based on the things I've seen her do. What did your family do during Easter? From Medea. Moving right along. Well, we did this year start with Lillian, my co-host, as you may know her. Lillian is had her first Easter egg hunt this year. She kicked off the year with learning how to hunt for Easter eggs. Of course, this only lasted until she realized that the eggs could be broken in half, and that sometimes there were prizes inside, and so this quickly devolved into just ripping the eggs in half, and obviously she threw her hat on the ground, so this really didn't last as long as it could have, but it was fun while it lasted. And then unfortunately we then came inside, and then this happened. Lillian has gotten really into dancing lately, and yeah. You can see she likes dancing with stuffed animals, but then, yeah, sometimes they just need to go away so that she can have her hands free to spin. She also learned a really important lesson about equilibrium and your inner ear function, because when you are done spinning, you sometimes have trouble walking. Yeah, no. It's like a tiny drunk person. She learned the lesson of dancing too hard. Okay, so moving on. This is getting into more of a serious question from someone who calling themselves irritated. What should I do to deal with my family so I do not go crazy? This sounds kind of like a disrespectful question, but I think it's something that we all do deal with, and so I feel like we can at least answer it. Sorry, I was laughing at the chat. I think sometimes, and we talked about in class how the concept of love. Love is not the opposite of hate, because you can both hate and love someone at the same time, and never has this been more on display than when you have to live cooped up in a house with your family member. You love them, you never stop loving them, but sometimes they do drive you crazy. Sometimes they really irritate you. I would say, first of all, I don't have all the answers, and I would love to hear what you all think. If you want to let me know in the chat any little solutions that you found for creating a sane space for yourself while you're at home. I do think space is important. I think, however, it is possible in your space to set aside an area where you can have alone time. And communication is really important, like setting those boundaries with your family and just telling them, I love you, but sometimes I just need to have my alone time, or maybe we need to talk about how you load the dishwasher because it drives me crazy. I don't know. Whatever the thing is that you're getting irritated about, I think clear communication and then having that space where you can get away from time to time is also probably really important. Everyone's saying we should put Lilly in dance classes. Irrelevant. Next question is from Dwight K. Schrute, who asks, do you think we're going back to school this year? I want to start by saying I am not an authority on this. Asking me is the equivalent of grabbing a random person off the street and asking them. No one knows, and it's hard to predict. There's so many variables. If I had to guess, I would say, yeah, probably. I think that the cases of COVID are peaking, and I think we will probably all get to be back in the building soon enough. And I'm calling it now, within 2 or 3 days from when we get back, you will all be hating it already and wishing that you could go back to online learning. It's gonna happen. Moving on. So someone, Animal 7 submitted the question: what is polygamy and who follows it? So it's not a religion. First of all, we should define our terms. This is what happens when you don't test run your PowerPoints before you go live. That first word there is polygamy, the word in question. Polygamy is Greek. The word polygamy, if you break it apart, poly and gamy means many marriages. Polygamy is any instance of a person who is taking multiple spouses. It can be male or female. Because it means many marriages, gender doesn't even come into play. It's just someone who has multiple spouses. And then you can divide this or subdivide it below into these two different words, polygyny and polyandry, which is a man who has multiple wives, a woman who has multiple husbands. And then as far as the question who follows it, you're going to have a spread around the world. Polygamy, or specifically polygyny, or the practice of having multiple wives, is practiced mainly where you're going to find majority Muslim countries. So Islam condones the practice of a man taking multiple wives. Interestingly, though, they completely condemn a woman having multiple husbands, which seems a little bit like a double standard. But yeah, you're going to see Islam will practice polygamy. The Church of Latter-day Saints, the Mormons, used to practice polygamy. It officially no longer practices polygamy, although there are Mormons today who still sort of undercover practice. It is illegal in the United States. It's actually illegal in the majority of the world, but it happens. Interestingly, polyandry is still prevalent in some. It's nowhere near as big as polygyny, but polyandry, or the practice of a woman taking multiple husbands, happens. There are tribes in Africa, certain regions of Africa where this happens. Also around India and Tibet. You will find women who take multiple husbands, which I actually didn't realize happened as often as it did. Overall, though, the practice of polygamy has been declining over the years. It was obviously much bigger back in biblical times, and it's been steadily kind of dropping as people realize that it's a bad idea. From someone who says, "No, you. How does Jesus dying on the cross save anyone from sins? It doesn't really make any logical sense. Is it spiritually saving them?" So, and this is why Lillian's not here, because she would not care about this question. Jesus dying on the cross. So you're correct in one sense, which is that on the surface it doesn't seem to. I think when you say it doesn't make logical sense, what you mean is it doesn't make physical, mechanical sense. If you're looking at it like dominoes, Jesus dying on the cross being the first domino, it really doesn't trigger or set off any other effects that you can tell. One person dying doesn't seem to make up for the sins of mankind. It doesn't seem to save anybody per se. But first of all, I will acknowledge that this question actually has a name in theology. It's called the Paschal Mystery, and it's one of the most important topics in the world of theology, the question of why did Jesus have to die? Because first of all, we can start off by saying God could forgive sins without any kind of punishment, right? God could just go, boom, no more sins, and boom, everyone gets to heaven. God could do that. So the question of why did Jesus have to die is pretty straightforward. Jesus didn't have to die. There's no reason Jesus had to die in order to accomplish the things God wanted to accomplish. God certainly could have found another way to do it. So the next question then is, why did God choose to carry things out this way? Why did Jesus choose to die? That's a different question altogether. So right off the bat, Jesus didn't need to die. Why did Jesus choose to die? Why was it maybe most appropriate for Jesus to die is another question. It kind of really goes back to balancing out the kinds of rituals that the Israelites had established in Mosaic law, basically setting this standard that sin requires penance, and then we will talk more about that in class, so sit tight. I'm sorry, I know it seems like I'm dodging this question, but if we could spend the whole time talking about this, and I just want to keep things rolling. From Joe M. Asks, after you leave Mercy, are you still going to do frog questions? I started frog questions 10 years ago, before I came to Mercy. I have been more or less active on it throughout the years. And yes, I intend to continue doing frog questions in venues similar to either this live broadcast or just continuing the YouTube channel. Definitely I definitely have plans to continue the podcast. So yes, frog questions will remain active for the foreseeable future, regardless of where I go. So yes. Oh, whoops, that's the wrong button. Okay, someone asked, what's the deal with eggs on Easter? So, and this is going to carry us into probably the scariest part of today. Easter, good grief. Come on, with the cutting off of the titles, are you serious? This is like just PSA to all of you. Please test your PowerPoints before you launch them publicly. Thank you, Meridian, for the vote of confidence. Okay, so Easter. Easter is the celebration of the day that Jesus rose from the dead. It includes lots of rituals, most of which are cultural, not religious. So, like, there's no religious reason that we have eggs. There's certainly no religious reason we have those terrifying rabbit costumes. Most of these are cultural. They come from, like, different regions who have different histories that are totally not tied into the religious celebration at all. The roots of these celebrations go all the way back actually before Christianity. So Easter eggs represent new life. The Easter bunny represents new life. Bunnies, rabbits are well known for being very good at the baby making, and so they are used as examples for new life. Eggs, obviously, examples of new life because the baby whatever animal hatches out of them. Chicks and ducklings obviously represent new life. And then, so all of this stuff, and then the celebration happening in Easter when things are literally being reborn, those rituals go all the way back to before Christianity, before Jesus even. People were celebrating not Easter, but like the spring season as a time of rebirth, renewal, new life. So then Jesus rising from the dead, literally being born into new life and starting a religion, Christianity, that celebrates people being born into a new life in Christ. It just all married together very well. So the practice of eggs and bunnies was never Christian, but then Christians adopted it because they felt like it went really well with their what they already believed. So now one of you said, what are your thoughts on some video game that I can't pronounce? And then they clarify it's a video game that's to die for. Haha. I had obviously never heard of this. It only took 1 second of Googling it to find this picture. And then I realized why you suggested this to me. It's because they have these terrifying hellfire bunny-shaped creatures, and you knew that would scare me because I already fessed up either in class or through email that the thing that probably scares me the most is Easter bunnies. I think the whole concept of Easter bunnies is terrifying, especially when we have adults dressed in Easter bunny costumes. So yeah, I already said eggs and bunnies date back to pre-Christian rituals, but they're still used today. But these costumes, are you serious? And just to prove my point, I am not the only one who thinks this. Many of you just over the past couple of days have submitted to me some really terrifying images, and so now I would like to share those with you. Yeah, let's move on. So obviously we need to give an honorable mention, a shout out to the Easter Bunny on YouTube who was seen breaking up a fight by punching someone. I'm not going to play the video for you, but you've seen it. And if you haven't seen it, well, you can YouTube it yourself if you want to. It's kind of violent. I didn't feel like I needed to share it, but it was kind of funny because the guy breaking up the fight is wearing an Easter Bunny costume. However, I don't know that this... Okay, enough. Yes, I said chucklings. You need to let it go. Things happen when you're live. So... this doesn't quite qualify for my scary Easter Bunny competition because this Easter Bunny is not that scary. He's just in a fight. What I was really looking for, and to prove my point, is you've got pictures like this. Now, this Easter Bunny is not that scary looking. And in fact, it seems all pretty straightforward until you look a little bit closer. And then, yeah, what is that? That's the stuff of nightmares. And then, of course, you've got these classics like that. So now I'm going to get rid of my face so that you can truly enjoy all of the Easter Bunny madness. So without further ado, there's something like 20 pictures. I'm just going to let these scroll. Let me know in the chat. Let me know in the chat which of these pictures you think deserves to win the title of Scariest Easter Bunny. Without further ado, here you go.
Here comes Peter Cottontail, hopping down the bunny trail. Hippity hoppity, Easter's on its way, bringing every girl and boy baskets full of Easter joy, things to make your Easter bright and gay. He's got jelly beans for Tommy, colored eggs for Sister Sue. There's an orchid for your mommy and an Easter bonnet too. Oh, here comes Peter Cottontail, hopping down the bunny trail. Hippity hoppity, happy Easter day. Here comes Peter Cottontail, hopping down the bunny trail. Look at him stop and listen to him say, try to do the things you should. Maybe if you're extra good, he'll roll lots of Easter eggs your way. You'll wake up on Easter morning and you'll know that he was there. When you find those chocolate bunnies that he's hiding everywhere. Oh, here comes Peter Cottontail, hopping down the bunny trail. Hippity hoppity, happy Easter day.
Okay, so special thanks to those of you. I know. I actually started with for the music. I chose this really suspenseful. I chose this really suspenseful music, like scary music, to go with the pictures because they were scary. And then all of a sudden, on a whim, I looked at the Easter Bunny song, or the Peter Cottontail song, and I just realized, like, playing that like happy children's music with the pictures made it so much worse. So I had to use that one instead. Okay, so yeah, please let me know in the chat which one you think deserves to win for the worst picture, the scariest picture. Thank you to those of you who sent in your picks. Moving along, from someone calling themselves Angry, says, if Lillian doesn't co-host the next episode, I'm going to be so mad. Well, you are in luck. Lilly is about to join us. Full disclosure, I did have to record this session with Lillian earlier because this is actually after her bedtime, and so you are going to get an interview with her, and she is going to answer your questions, but this is pre-recorded, and then Lillian is going to, from there, just go ahead and take us right into the word of the day, and then when we come back, I'll check in with Lillian live. We'll see where she's at in her bedtime ritual. But without further ado, I'm going to mute myself, and we are going to take this to Lillian in the field. Hold this. Hold that one. And welcome back to Frog Questions. I'm here, as always, with my co-host, Lillian Grace. Lillian, can you say hello to everyone? Say hello. Can you wave? No? And she's going to talk to us a little bit about Easter, aren't you, Lillian?
Yeah.
Yeah? I see that you're dressed up in your Easter clothes. Can you tell us a little bit about that?
Yeah.
Yeah? Are you... Go ahead. Okay, you can have both. Okay. Lillian, do you want to tell everyone what your favorite part of Easter is?
Yeah.
Yeah? What part? Do you like hunting for Easter eggs? Yeah? Do you have any advice for anyone during the quarantine? How to celebrate Easter during quarantine, perhaps? Yeah? Okay, that's good. Hey, Lillian, you told me before we started rolling that you had some tips for people for how to stay clean and healthy during the quarantine. Would you like to share some of those tips now?
Yeah.
Yeah? Okay. So Lillian has brought with her a washing station, a sink, if you will, and she's now going to demonstrate how to wash her hands. Lillian, can you show us how to wash your hands? Yeah, that's true. So first you set the temperature of the water. There we go. We wash our hands. Can you use some soap? Use the soap. Okay, and now you rinse the hands. And Lillian right now is demonstrating that you should wash your hands for at least 20 seconds at a time. Very good, Lillian. And the microphone doesn't go in the water because that would destroy it because of electronics. Would you like to give anyone some tips for Easter egg hunting? Lillian? Do you know anything about Easter egg hunting?
Yeah.
Yes? Yeah, okay. This is part of her job as co-host, is making sure that my attire is presentable. So this is fine. Okay. Oh, do you want to wear the name tag? So now I'm back with my co-host, Mr. Maerzke. She's now wearing my name tag. And you've now completely dropped your microphone. Is this... Oh, all right. Oh! Okay. More, that's fine. You don't have to have a mic, I guess. In other news, Lillian, did you want to share anything else about the holiday season, about spending time with your family? Do you know anything about family?
Yeah.
Yes? What do you want to tell us about your family? Who's your favorite family member? Okay, interesting. She says that her dada is her favorite family member, so, take that, everyone else. Do you like candy?
Yeah,
But? Hey, Lillian, what's your favorite kind of candy? Beans and Jimmies?
Yeah.
I've never heard of that before. What's your favorite color of Easter egg? Oh, wow, that's interesting. Here's a question. Can I have my name tag back?
Yeah.
Yes? Oh, thank you. Oh, no. It was a lie. Lillian, do you agree with the premise that I proposed earlier last week online when I said that Easter bunnies are scary? Okay, so Lillian clearly agrees with me. Lillian, would you like to introduce the word of the day? Can you say, now it's time for the word of the day? Lily, can you go, word of the day, word of the day? Yeah! This week's word of the day is Triduum. The phrase Triduum means the 3 days in Latin and can apply to any set of 3 religious festivals. For instance, Halloween, All Saints' Day, and All Souls' Day are part of the Hallowtide Triduum. However, the word Triduum is most famously applied to the 3 days leading up to Easter: Holy Thursday, Good Friday, and Holy Saturday. These 3 days are a really important celebration in the church's year, even though they are also probably the saddest days in the church's year. Good Friday being the day that Jesus died, Holy Thursday, the day before Jesus died when he was arrested after the Last Supper, and of course Holy Saturday, the day that he laid at rest in the tomb. But the Triduum, of course, is very important because it is the lead up to the most important celebration of the church year, which is Easter. Triduum is your word of the day. Now back to our regularly scheduled program.
Frog Questions will return after these messages.
Anything you want to share? Oh! Okay. You don't want the mic anymore, that's fine. You don't have to have a mic. Ready, go. Lillian, I'm only going to say this now that the cameras are off, but you just are not cut out to be a co-host. You know that? You threw the microphone on my foot. You pulled my name tag off. My tie is all cattywampus now. What are you even looking for? There's no Easter eggs down inside the couch. What are you doing? Did you lose the other half of my name tag? Yes? Lillian, we are never going to get this take done if you don't stop losing things. Where's your microphone even? Have you completely lost it? Would you at least retie my tie? Can you do that for me? Can you fix my tie? So now you're wearing my tie, which is, again, just not helpful. Lillian, did you start a radio show without me?
Yeah.
You started your own radio show? You just thought you could replace me as a co-host?
Yeah.
Yes, she laughs at my pain. I need to point out there's a shocking amount of support for Lillian in the chat right now. Like, to the point that you all are advocating that she just take over the show. Like, I think maybe some of you are even saying that you think she's the better of the two co-hosts in this video. And I just want to remind you that if she was in charge, it would be anarchy. She threw a microphone at my foot. She stole my name tag. She's a monster. Yes, well, so now that we are back live, that was the pre-recorded video. I do actually have a live feed to Lillian right now. Let's drop in and see where Lillian is live right at this moment. Oh. Well, look at that. Sleeping on the job. She's sleeping during the recording of this broadcast. Do you still think she's the better co-host? Don't answer that. I don't want to hear answers to that in the chat. But I'm just going to point out, I'm still here running the show. She's asleep. So, anyway. So that is going to conclude. Like, oh my goodness, it's too much. The chat is too much right now. It's like, it's just nothing but love for Lillian, which, obviously I take offense to. So you got the word of the day already. If you are in my class, you can type that into Shobi for 2 points of extra credit, as long as you get it in there in the next few minutes. Let's see. Yeah, so I'm checking the chat, and it does seem like there's not a whole lot of extra follow-up questions. It just seems like it's mostly people supporting Lillian and telling me that I should quit my job and just turn the live stream over to her. So we'll see where things go next week. This drama's heating up. We'll see how it plays out. Maybe next week I will have quit and it'll just be a live stream with Lillian. But Okay, so I'm going to stop looking at the chat. Okay, so this is going to conclude our show for today. Type the word of the day into Shobi for extra credit points. And as always, I guess I should do my outro, which is that if you have a question in between now and next week, I think next week we're back in class, so we're going to be going back to a Friday live broadcast schedule. You can send your questions into www.frogquestions.com, and I will put together the slideshow for next week. I hope you all are washing your hands like Lillian taught you. Don't cough at strangers. Stay inside. Find ways to cope with your family. Remember, your family loves you. Even when they irritate you. But stay safe, stay healthy. And I will see you all next week. Good night.
Welcome to Frog Question Friday.